The sun had already started. Its slow tumble toward the horizon when the lone rider appeared on the edge of the prairie. Ethan Cole's silhouette was a dark slash against a sky that burned orange and crimson. His horse moved with the patience of an animal that had known nothing but long rides and longer silences. Ethan tugged his hat lower against the glare, the brim shadowing eyes hardened by years of watching people leave. He owned 3,000 acres of land, a crumbling ranch house, a herd of stubborn cattle, and not much else. Out here, the wind carried no laughter and the nights stretched too wide. Inside, the ranch smelled of coffee grounds and old wood. A stack of unpaid bills sat on the table like an accusation. Ethan didn't look at them anymore. He just moved through his routine, feed the horses, mend the fences, try not to remember how his father had died and his fiancée had taken the first train out the next morning. Some men learned to drink away loneliness. Ethan had learned to work it to the bone. But lately, even work wasn't enough. He'd caught himself talking to the walls, to the empty chair across from him at dinner. That was why he'd pinned a notice to the supply store's bulletin board 3 weeks ago. Cook needed. Room and board, remote ranch, cash pay. No nonsense. He hadn't expected anyone to answer. Few women came this far out and fewer stayed. Yet this morning a letter had arrived. Small, neat handwriting, a name he'd never heard, Clara Bennett. She wrote that she had experience in kitchens and wasn't afraid of hard work. She'd be arriving today on the noon stagecoach. He'd almost ridden out to meet her, but something held him back. Instead, he'd left the old wagon by the station with instructions and come home. If she wanted the job, she'd find her way. Out here, everyone did. Now, as the first stars showed themselves above the hills, Ethan heard the crunch of wheels on gravel. He stepped out onto the porch. The wagon creaked into the yard, driven by a man from town. On the seat beside him sat a young woman with a scarf tied against the dust. She climbed down with quick, unhesitating movements. The wind caught her hair as she looked up at him. "You must be Mr. Cole," she said, her voice calm but not shy. "I'm Clara Bennett." Ethan nodded. "I am. You find the place all right?" "Wasn't hard," she said, glancing at the long stretch of dark land behind him. "Hard part will be living on it, I expect." He gave the faintest flicker of a smile. "We'll see. Supper's simple tonight. Hope you're not expecting fine china." She shook her head. "After a day on that coach, anything warm will taste like heaven." He led her inside. The kitchen was clean but bare, a cast-iron stove, a scarred table, shelves lined with chipped jars. Clara set her small carpetbag down and immediately rolled up her sleeves. "You sit," she said lightly. "I'll see what I can make from what you've got." Ethan blinked. "I hired you to cook, not command my kitchen." "Then let's call it a head start." She moved with quiet confidence, opening cupboards, sniffing jars, gathering spices. In minutes she had onions sizzling in a pan, the smell filling the empty house with a warmth Ethan hadn't realized he'd missed. He sat at the table, watching her. She didn't chatter nervously like most people. She hummed under her breath, an old hymn he almost recognized. As they ate, he learned small things. She'd grown up on a farm back east, lost her parents young, worked in boarding house kitchens and on traveling shows. She didn't mention a husband or children, and he didn't ask. Her food wasn't fancy, but it was rich, seasoned with something more than salt. When they finished, she stacked the plates neatly. "I'll keep to the spare room," she said. "I'm an early riser." "That'll suit me," Ethan said. "Work starts before dawn." Clara met his gaze. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't ready." Later, as Ethan lay in his own room, listening to the creak of the old house settling, he realized it felt different tonight. The air didn't echo quite as much. Someone else was breathing under the same roof. It should have felt intrusive. Instead, it felt strange, like the first sign of rain after a drought. Out in the barn, the horses shifted. Out in the kitchen, Clara's door clicked shut. And out in the dark beyond the ranch, unseen eyes watched men who had long envied Ethan Cole's land and had plans of their own. Morning broke silver over the prairie, frost clinging to the dry grass. Ethan rose before the sun as usual. But when he stepped into the kitchen, Clara was already there. A kettle hissed on the stove, and the smell of fresh bread filled the air. She moved briskly, tying back her hair, her cheeks glowing from the stove's heat. "You'll spoil me," he muttered, pouring himself coffee. "You've been living on beans and jerky," she said. "I call it rescue, not spoiling." Her easy confidence unsettled him. For years his mornings had been silent, broken only by the scrape of his own chair. Now there was humming, a soft rhythm of knives on wood. He found himself lingering at the table, drawn to it like a man drawn to a fire in winter. As the days passed, Clara reorganized the kitchen, scrubbed windows that hadn't been clear in a decade, and coaxed life from the neglected garden behind the house. She asked nothing in return but fair wages and respect. Ethan watched her mend curtains with scraps of cloth, bake pies from wild berries, and feed a lame colt with her own hands. The ranch felt different, warmer, steadier, as if someone had swept out not just the dust but the loneliness. One evening, after a long day of fencing, Ethan came in to find the table set with 2 candles. Clara was testing a recipe she remembered from her mother, she said. He ate in silence at first, but she teased him until he laughed, a rusty sound that surprised them both. "There it is," she said softly. A real laugh. "I knew you had one." But beyond the glow of the house, trouble was gathering. A pair of local ranchers, bitter over losing a grazing contract, began riding close to Ethan's fences. He noticed cut wire, missing calves. Clara noticed his clenched jaw and the new shotgun leaning by the door. She didn't ask questions yet, but her eyes sharpened. That night, as he banked the fire, Ethan caught her looking at him with quiet determination. "I didn't just come here to cook," she said. "I came here because I know what it's like to fight for a place. Whatever's coming, Mr. Cole, you're not facing it alone." For the first time in years, Ethan felt something shift inside him, not just gratitude, but hope. Out on the prairie, the wind carried the scent of rain.